It was a war that began with hope, but its true goal was the search for Greater Somalia. Two neighboring countries stood against each other, very different in military strength and political power. On one side was a young nation, newly independent from colonial rule, with a government still weak and developing. On the other side was a powerful kingdom, known across Africa as the Lion of Africa. When the war began, it was not only a fight between two countries. For the first time, both the Western powers and the Soviet Union stood together to limit and weaken Somalia's power. When the war ended, it did not truly end. Its effects went deep, shaking the Somali government and changing the future of the country for many years to come. Now, let's look back at the history of the Ogaden War. After the Second World War ended, Italy and its allies were defeated. As a result, control of southern Somalia was taken over by the British government. Britain already controlled northern Somalia, the northern frontier, and the land known as the Ogaden. In 1945,
we'll have the next generation to fight, and after the next,
the plan was to unite northern Somalia, western Somalia, and southern Somalia into one territory. This plan gave hope to the Somali people. But Ethiopia strongly opposed the idea. An Ethiopian delegation quickly traveled to London. They presented their request to the British government. Ethiopia asked that the Somali region of the Ogaden, and also Eritrea, be placed under Ethiopian control. Ethiopia also appealed to the United States. The United States supported Ethiopia's position. Because of this pressure, Britain changed its policy. Britain decided to hand over the Somali territory of the Ogaden to the rule of Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. In 1955, Britain officially signed an agreement. This agreement gave Ethiopia control over western Somalia and the Hod region. As a result, these Somali lands fell under a new form of colonial rule, a rule that many Somalis consider harsher than the European colonialism that came before. In 1960, when the Somali Republic was formed, a political plan began immediately. The goal was to liberate the Somali regions that were still under colonial control. These regions were the NFD, Djibouti, and Western Somalia. Somalia was a new and young state. It did not have strong military power, only political influence. For this reason, Somalia first focused on international diplomacy. On the international stage, the new Somali government faced three powers. In 1931, his execution was carried out, but his story did not end there. Somalia, Italy killed his body, but they could not kill his idea. Omar al-Mukhtar became a national symbol, a symbol of freedom and dignity. Today, his name shines in the history of Libya and across the Islamic world. In 1964, many places are named after him. Schools, universities, streets, and large public squares. History always remembers the powerful, but it never forgets those who stood for justice. Omar al-Mukhtar did not become a hero because of the battles he fought, but because he rejected oppression and chose truth and dignity. This is the story of the Lion of the Desert. Although the Somali army was not strong, it showed resistance. Somali forces pushed back the Ethiopian troops. Finally, the two countries met in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan. There, they signed a ceasefire agreement, bringing the fighting to an end. In 1969, when the Somali military, led by Mohammed Syed Barre, took control of the country, a major reform of the government and army began. The Somali military had been receiving training and equipment from the Soviet Union since 1962. After the revolution, the army grew very fast in strength. In a short time, it became one of the strongest and most skilled armies in Africa. In 1974, the Emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, was removed from power. A group, led by Mengistu Haile Mariam, took control. His forces committed mass killings in many areas, and the country's government system became weak and unstable. After 4 years of political chaos, Mengistu declared himself the leader of Ethiopia in 1977. He introduced a socialist system, cut ties with Western countries, and aligned Ethiopia with the Soviet Union and Eastern Bloc. Meanwhile, Somalia was growing rapidly in both economic strength and military power. At that time, Somalia was highly respected internationally, especially in Africa. Somalia made strong efforts to liberate the Somali region still under foreign control, Western Somalia. Many peace talks organized by the Organization of African Unity between Somalia and Ethiopia failed. Eventually, the Somali government decided to support armed resistance inside Ethiopia. Somalia trained and armed the Western Somali Liberation Front.
Ogadens are Somalis. They are not Amhara. They are not other tribe. They are not other origin. That is their origin. Therefore, it's not crime to be Ogaden. No, Ogaden are Somalis. Therefore, that your origin is one X, name XY. It's not a crime. What crime is to do wrongly on the other side. I didn't say to them we have no territorial ambition or Ethiopia. No, but we want to be safeguard the interest of our people.
In 1977, the war officially became a conflict between the regular military forces of the Somali Republic and the Ethiopian army. The Ethiopian military adopted a strategy based on patience and sacrifice, trying to resist Somali attacks until they received international support from their allies. They expected that the Somali forces could attack from two directions, the north and the south. Therefore, they decided to concentrate their main forces around Jigjiga, because it is a strategic city located at an important road junction. During the war, Somali forces continued to achieve major victories, pushing back the Ethiopian army and advancing until they reached an area known as Sidamo. By September 1977, Somali forces had captured most of the western regions, and they also took control of important towns and military positions beyond the original battlefield. The fighting became focused on the strategic triangle of Diredaba, Harar, and Jigjiga. The Ethiopians worked hard to defend these areas, gathering their strongest troops and equipment there, because Diredaba was a major military supply center, and it was located on the railway line connecting Ethiopia and Djibouti. In mid-August, Somali forces launched the second phase of their offensive, carrying out a heavy attack on the city of Dire Dawa. which became one of the most intense stages of the war. When Ethiopia faced a serious danger, communist countries came to support it. The Soviet Union, Cuba, East Germany, and other countries provided modern weapons, fighter jets, tanks, missiles, and military support. Thousands of Cuban soldiers joined the war directly, while the Soviet Union gave full military support, war strategies, and advisors. This support changed the balance of the war, giving Ethiopia new strength and more power than before. When Ethiopia received new weapons and more soldiers, the war entered a new and more difficult phase. Somali forces faced heavy attacks, air bombardment, and strong pressure. Slowly, Somalia was forced to retreat, and cities that were previously captured returned to Ethiopian control. In 1978, Somali forces withdrew from most battle areas, marking the end of the main phase of the war. The war became a historical lesson and showed the bravery, sacrifice, and strength of Somali soldiers. It became clear that Somalia could be defeated in weapons, but not in spirit, pride, and national determination. The Ogaden War was not only a military conflict, it was a historical test of unity, dignity, and struggle for the Somali people. Although the war ended in retreat, it left a lasting legacy. The memory of fallen heroes, important lessons, and hope still alive among Somalis. Today, when we look back at this war, it teaches us that victory is not only about controlling land, but about protecting honor, writing history, and inspiring future generations. The Ogaden War ended with gunfire, but it lives on in memory, history, and the hearts of the Somali people.